We all have learned about interfaces in the previous session. Together with interfaces, we should know about default and static methods. So that part I have not taken it. We will discuss about that in the next week. Now let us learn about functional interfaces that were introduced in Java 8. Okay. What are functional interfaces? Functional interfaces are interfaces which is going to have only one abstract method. Okay. Does it mean that it cannot have any other methods? The functional interfaces also can have default and static methods. But the condition is it can have only one, it should have only one abstract method. Okay. Before Java 8 also, we had interfaces which were having only one abstract method. Few examples of that are like comparable. Comparable is from java.lang package. It is a functional interface. It is having only one single method, compare to. This is an abstract method, okay. Next, comparator. This is also a functional interface. It is having only one single method, compare, which is taking two parameters. This takes one parameter. And runnable. If you have learned about threads, multi-threading, you know runnable is an interface which is having only one single abstract method, void run. Okay. So these are all called as functional interfaces. How can I implement functional interface? That is what we are going to see now. So whenever I have one more thing is, if I want the compiler to identify that this is a functional interface, then you can annotate it with functional interface annotation. It is not mandatory though. If you are annotating it, the compiler will understand, okay, fine. This interface should have only one single abstract method. If you try to add an extra abstract method, then automatically it will give you a compiler error. Clear now? Okay. Now, let us see how to create a functional interface. Now, let me create an interface. Let me give an interface name, greetings, within which let me create one single method, void greet user. And let me have a parameter, string username. So what is this? This interface is having only one single method, abstract method. This is called as a functional interface. This may or may not be annotated with functional interface annotation. If you annotate it with functional interface annotation, then the compiler will understand, okay, this should have only one abstract method. If you try to add any other extra method which is abstract, then automatically it will give you an error saying that this is a functional interface. It can have only one abstract method. Together with this, the functional interface can have default methods also. I can have default void called. Then I can have a static method also. Static void show. Okay. So this is a proper functional interface. Now let us see how to implement this functional interface. You all know how to implement an interface. We have seen in the previous session also. For implementing a functional interface, you can create a class that implements this interface. That's what we have learned. Okay. This is what we have been doing till Java 8. Together with this, there is also one other concept called as anonymous inner class. What is the meaning of an inner class? Inner class means a class inside a class. Inheritance is different. Inner class is different. Inheritance means it is a subclass. There is a superclass. There is a subclass. The subclass can use the properties of the superclass. That is inheritance. Inner class means you are writing a class. Inside that you are creating another class. That is called as an inner class. What is the meaning of anonymous inner class? If the class is not having any name, it is called as an anonymous inner class. So, a functional interface can also be implemented using anonymous inner class. A normal interface also can be implemented using anonymous inner class. Together with this, functional interface also can be implemented using Lambda expressions. Okay, so we will discuss about these two in today's session. Together with that, in case of functional interfaces, there were new interfaces that were introduced from Java 8. Few interfaces are like consumer, supplier, predicate, function. These are the four main interfaces that were introduced from Java 8. Means when I say consumer, consumer has its own purpose. Supplier has its own purpose. Predicate has its own purpose. Together with this, I am also having like by consumer, int consumer, float consumer, then predicate, by predicate, function, by function. So these are few functional interfaces that were introduced from Java 8. Clear now? Okay. Now let us see how to implement the functional interface. First using anonymous inner class. Then we will see how to use Lambda expressions. Okay. So now I will just go to the program. I'll go to Eclipse. We will create a simple functional interface. Then we will implement it first using anonymous inner class. We will understand how an anonymous inner class is working. Then we will modify the same code. We will learn about Lambda expressions and we will implement the functional interface using Lambda expressions. Okay. Now let me go back to Eclipse. It's just a minute. This is my Eclipse. Okay. File new. Let me create a new Java project. Let me give the name as interface demos. Now inside this, let me first create a package. Select src, right click, new package. You can create the interface. While creating the interface itself, you can give the package name also. com.inter.fun. We are going to learn about functional interfaces. So select your interface package, right click, new interface. Now let us give the interface name as greetings. Now within this, let us add one simple method, void greet. Okay, no parameter, no return type, nothing. I just want to implement this method. So how do you do it if you are going to create a class that implements this interface? We will create a new class. Let me have the class name as employee. Then I need to add the interface. Guys, in this case, you can add the interface from here also. Yeah, yes, Pradap, any question? Okay, somebody has raised the hands. Okay, add. Here, you'll have to search for greetings. Now I have got the interface. Select it, click OK. And click finish. Now the method, see, automatically it is showing me the option to override the method. Now within which I can write my logic. Have a great day. Okay. Now see, if you notice I have written everything properly, still it is giving me an error. Why? Because this greetings interface is not saved. So you can just use Shift Control S or directly go and save all. Click on the save all. Now the error is gone. Now how do you call it? Go to the main class. You have to create the main class. Let me give trial. I'll create the main method. Now inside this, how do you write the code? So here, greetings. Greetings is equal to new employee. Employee is the class that is implementing this interface, right? Next line, I can call greetings dot greet. So this is very basic. This is what we have been doing till now when we are working with interfaces. Now when I'm running this application, I'm getting the output as have a great day. Getting it? Okay. Now we were discussing about the annotation of at functional interface. I will show you that also. Let me annotate this method with at functional interface annotation. Now if I try to add one extra method, void call, immediately it will give me an error saying that greetings is a functional interface. So we cannot have one more method, one more abstract method here. Getting it? Okay. Now let us see how to implement this functional interface using anonymous inner class. So this is simple. Let us use anonymous inner class. So how do you create it? For this, let me create a new reference. Greetings. Reference is equal to new greetings. Can we create an object of an interface? No. Interfaces cannot be instantiated. But the moment I give this, after that if I am putting a round bracket, this is wrong. If I am ending it with a semicolon, for sure it is wrong. You cannot create object of an interface. But I will remove this semicolon. I will add curly braces and end it with a curly brace. After that, I will put the semicolon. So what you are doing, you are not creating an object of an interface, but you are creating a class that implements this interface. So this part, whatever you are seeing, is nothing but a class that implements this particular interface. Getting it? Okay. So what is important for a class that implements the interface? If you notice, if a class is implementing an interface, it is mandatory that you need to override the method that is available in the interface. So in our case also, we have created a class that implements this interface. So it is mandatory that we need to override the greet method. See, that is why it's giving me an error. If I keep the cursor, automatically it will give me an option to add the unimplemented methods. Now I have added the unimplemented methods. Guys, I hope it is clear. The moment you write new greetings, it will give you an error. If you end it with semicolon, pakka it will give you an error saying that you are trying to create an object of an interface. But after that, if you are starting it with curly braces, ending it with a curly brace here, then it means you are creating a class that implements this interface. So this code is equivalent to the code that you have written in the employee class. So this is the implementation part. Please understand, this is implementing the interface. Okay. Now inside this, let us have a message. Welcome to inner classes. After this, what you have to do? We all know we have to implement it. The next step is we need to call it. How are you calling it? Using the reference, you are calling the method. Similarly, here also, using this reference, you need to call the method. Reference dot greet. Understood? Is this clear? Understood? Reference dot greet. Please, again, I'm repeating, this part is implementing the interface and this part is calling the method. So if you notice, we are providing the implementation in the same place where we are calling the method. When you run this application, how it will run, you know, the JVM will get an entry into this method. First, it will create a reference of greetings. Then it will point to the employee object. Then it will go and call the greet method. Then after that, it will come to line number 10. It will not enter into this class at all. It will skip this. From line number 10, directly it will jump to line number 17. From line number 17, it is seeing that you are calling greet method. The moment you call greet method, from line number 17, again it will enter into line number 10 and it will call the implementation part. This is how it will work. Again, I am repeating, only when you call reference.greet, it will get an entry into the implementation part. So this is how you implement a functional interface using anonymous inner class. From Java 8, they came up with the concept called as functional programming. What is functional programming? Functional programming means you are implementing the method in the same place where you are going to call it. For this, we will be using lambda expressions. Now let us understand about lambda expressions. Before that, let me run this and see the output. Show the output. See here, we have got the output. Is this clear now, everybody? Any questions? Okay. Now let me explain what are lambda expressions, how to use them. What are lambda expressions? Lambda expressions are like a method without access specifier, return type, method name. This is how it is. So what exactly it is? What exactly is the meaning of it? What exactly is the meaning of it? Suppose say if I am having a method as public void greet round bracket curly braces. If I am using lambda expression, it will not have access specifier, no return type, no method name. You will just have this parenthesis and arrow. So what is the syntax for lambda expressions? The syntax goes like this. Parenthesis, arrow followed by method body. This is the syntax for lambda expression. Suppose if I am having a method public void greet, how I can implement it using lambda expressions? In this case, just take the parameter. Parenthesis, arrow followed by method body, within which you can give system.out.println and welcome. In this case, if you notice, I am having only one single line. So I don't have to use the curly braces. Directly I can give it as system.out.println and welcome. See how simple it is now. Now suppose if my method is having parameters, so how I can implement it? Let us see that. So we will see the different scenarios. First is, we saw if I am having a method without return type and without parameters. So how to implement it using lambda expression? This can be implemented as parenthesis. Always take this one, okay? Parenthesis, arrow followed by method body. So within which I can write system.out.println hello. Now because it is having only one single line, I don't have to add it within curly braces. You all know. In case of if statement, you do that, right? If you are having only one single statement, you will not add curly braces. So same is the scenario here also. I can add parenthesis, arrow, system.out.println hello. Fine. So this is without parameters and without return type. What if my method is having parameters? Public void add int x, comma, int y, curly braces. So in this case, how we can give it? Just take the parameters. Again, I am repeating, just take these parameters. Here it is int x, comma, int y, close this, arrow, within, now I have only one single line. I want to give it as like system.out.println, sum is x plus y. So directly I can give SOP, sum plus x plus y. Clear? Now, in case of when you are passing the parameters, it is not mandatory that you need to give the data type also. It is enough, you can simply give x comma y, arrow, system.out.println x plus y. So in case of lambda expressions, it is like a method without access specifier, without return type, without method name. It is just going to take the parameter list. Now followed by arrow, within curly braces, you need to write your logic. Fine. Now what if my method is going to have a return type? Let us see how we can handle it. So in case if my method is going to have a return type, public int, or say let us have string first. Public string greet. This time let me add data type also. username. So how I can implement it using Lambda expression? In this case, again as usual, no access specifier, no return type, no method name, just the parameter list. So here again, in case of parameter, you don't have to specify the data type. Data type is type inferred. Okay. Guys, do not worry. Actually, after completing this webinar, tomorrow morning, I will upload this particular webinar in my YouTube channel. You can just watch that. If you guys are having some internet fluctuations or something like that, you can watch it from the YouTube tomorrow. Okay. Now here, I can have it as username. Username. Any variable name you can give. Arrow within parenthesis. Now I can give return hello user. Hello plus username. In this case also, we are having only one single line. So how I can just minimize it? It is very, very simple. Username. No need of parenthesis also. Why? Because I am having only one parameter. If I am having more than one parameter, I have to put it within parenthesis. If I am having a single parameter, I can give it directly. I don't have to give the data type in both the cases. Username, arrow, I have to give it in a single line. In this case, no need of curly braces. Because you are having a return statement, you should not use the return also. Directly give hello plus username. Automatically, the compiler will understand, okay, fine. She is returning hello plus username for this particular implementation. Got it understood? Okay. Now, fine. Now, guys, let me ask you something. I will give you a method. Can you just share me in the chat window how this can be implemented using Lambda expressions? Public void add int x. I want to calculate the square. Can you write me and show me the logic for this particular thing using Lambda expression? You can simply write it in the chat window and share it to me. I want this method to be implemented using Lambda expressions. How will you implement it using Lambda expressions? Just give a try. The return type is void, method name is square, it is taking int x. So how you can give it? You should not give value. Write the logic, not the value. You are implementing the method. You are not going to write the code. Give the value. How will you write it? Yes, anybody else? Yeah, very good. Okay. So, how I can give x? So, I can give it as directly x, arrow, method body. If the return type is void, so I am just going to have a println statement. So, it is system.out.println x into y, x. If my method is having a return type, then I can give x arrow x star x. Got it? In this case, this is equivalent to writing x arrow within curly braces return x into x. But in our case, the method is having the return type as void. So I don't want to return anything. I just want to print it. So we can give system.out.println x into x. Got it clear? Okay, very good. So now, guys, I hope you can understand this. Do not give x into x directly, because in that scenario, it means that you are trying to return a value. We are not returning a value. The method return type is void. So you have to print it directly. System.out.println. Fine. Okay. Now we will see few examples with the help of Lambda expressions. Fine. Now let me create one more class. And we are going to implement this interface using Lambda expression. So let me create a class with the name LambDemo, public static void main, click finish. Okay. What is the purpose of Lambda expressions? Lambda expression is a method without parameter, without method name, return type, access specifier. For what will you use lambda expressions? Whenever you want to implement functional interfaces, only functional interfaces, you can use lambda expression. My dear guys, in case of this one, the class that implements this interface, you can use it for any interface. If it is having more than one method, you can use it. You all know that because we have done it already. Interfaces methods can be implemented. Now coming to the next part, using anonymous inner class. Even if your interface is having more than one abstract method, you can also use anonymous inner class. But what about lambda expression? Lambda expression can be used only with functional interfaces. Okay, why did they come up with this concept? Say I am having one method area. I want to calculate the area of different shapes. So what are the possibilities? I will create square class, rectangle class, triangle class, parallelogram, trapezium, blah blah. So many classes I am creating. But what happens is whoever wants to use this, they really don't know the class name. Maybe the spelling is wrong. Maybe there is a typo. Maybe I have given the class name as rect for rectangle. They are assuming that the class name is rectangle. So instead of creating that many number of classes for implementing one single method, you can go in for lambda expressions. Now let us see how we can implement the greet method in greetings. So I am having greetings interface and I want to implement it using lambda expression. Let us see how it can be done. So, as usual, how do you write it? Interface reference is equal to. Interface reference means greetings. Reference is equal to. Then after that, I have to implement this method. In this case, how did you implement? You wrote new greetings, blah, 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 so many things. But in case of lambda expression, you don't need anything of this. You don't need public, you don't need void, you don't need greet. Only this part is required. That is after the parenthesis. So how you can write it is, just copy this parenthesis. This is what I want. Copy it over here, arrow, method body. End it with a semicolon. So please understand, this is implementation. You are not calling it. Okay. Implementation, this is lambda expression, within which system.out.println grade day. Next part, I need to call the method. How will you call the method? Reference dot call the greet method. Guys, I hope you can understand. This is the implementation part. This is the calling part. When you talk about lambda expressions, this is what you need to remember. Fine? Okay. Now let me run this. See, we are getting the output as grade day. Now let us create one more interface. I will create an interface here itself. In the same place, interface calculator, within which let me add one method, void calculate. Int x comma int y. Okay. Now this time it is taking two parameters. Now for one particular method, how many implementations can I get? I can do addition, I can do subtraction, I can do multiplication, I can find the difference. And if at all, if I want to get the square, get the power, assuming this is the power value, this is the number. Something like, assume if I give 2 and 3, it is 2 power 3, 2 and 10, 2 power 10, like that. So there are multiple functionalities which can be performed by using one single method. So now let us see how it can be done. So here, what is the interface name? Calculator. Calculator is equal to, now guys, again, just to copy this parameters, Control C, add it over here. Arrow, method body, that's all. Now if you do not want to add it in multiple lines, what you can do? You can have it in a single line also. So now maybe like first time I want to do addition. Adder, here I can write it as so sum plus x plus y. Why do we need this parenthesis? Can I write it without the parenthesis? What will happen if I write it without the parenthesis? It will do concatenation. So that is why I am putting this within parenthesis. I can end it with a semicolon. Now I want to write it in a single line. How we can do it? The next one. The next implementation. Calculator difference is equal to, this time I don't even want to use the data types. I'm showing different ways, okay? All are correct. Whichever you want, you can use it. Arrow, so difference plus x minus y. So now this place what we have done? We have implemented it in a single line. Similarly, I can do it for product. Calculator product is equal to x comma y. Here there is no choice. You have to add the parenthesis because it is having two parameters. So product plus x into y. Fine. Now how to call the methods after every implementation? Let us call it adder dot calculate by passing 10 comma 20. Similarly, difference dot calculate by passing 10 comma 100 comma 20. And the last one, product dot calculate by passing 2 comma 2. Is this clear? So this way also we can implement our interface, provided if it is a functional interface. So this time we have seen if my interface is having parameters, how it can be implemented. See, for one single method, if I am going to create it as a separate class, think of the scenario. You have to create a separate adder class, a separate separate difference class, separate product class, just to implement one single method, just to write one single line of logic, we are writing a separate class. It is not required. We can use lambda expressions. Any doubt? Okay. So this is the second method. That's a second interface. Now we will move on to the third interface. Interface which is having a return type. My method is taking parameter and also having a return type. So how I can implement it? So I can write it as show reference is equal to, how I will use it? Again, I have to take this, correct? Copy it and paste it over here. Arrow method body. This is the syntax. First write the syntax, then it is easier for you. Now in this case, I don't have to add the parameter first, number one. The second thing is I don't have to add the round brackets also. Fine. And then after this, within the curly braces, we need to write the logic and I have to return it. So return grade day plus name. And I should end this with a semicolon. The next line, we need to call it using reference dot print message by passing Shri. So this also has to print properly. Click OK. Somewhere there is an error where reference is being used again. Let me give it as reference 1. Save it and run. You should get the output. Okay. Why am I not getting the output? Any guess? This print message is returning a data. That is, it is returning a string. I am not capturing it. That is why it's giving me an error. So I need to call it within println statement. That's all. Or get it in a string variable and in the next line, you can print it. Both will work perfectly fine. Clear? Here I have added return keyword. Now we will do it without return keyword. So how we can do it? Reference 1 is equal to name. Simply you can write welcome plus name. This is the shortest way of writing lambda expression. If your method is having a return type and a parameter, this is the shortest way. If your method is having a parameter but no return type, this is the shortest way. So here I have given, see how simple it is. And in the next line, call the method. Guys, please don't think that you are calling the method here. No, you are just implementing it. I am emphasizing on this because all the time my guys think that we are calling the method. No, you are implementing it. Implementation of which method it is? Print message. Now in the next line, this is actually returning a result. The return type of the result is a string. So I can get it like this also. Reference 1 dot print message by passing Priya. This is a result. Got it now clear? See, now it is printing it properly. Any questions till this in lambda expressions? Yeah, very good. So I hope it is clear for till this part. So how you can, if you are having, so first thing is, if you are having a functional interface, if you have to implement it using lambda expression, just close your eyes. Go and take only the parameter list, arrow, method, body. That's all. Because you will get a confusion. How to write it out? What is the syntax? Very simple. Just copy the parameters, arrow, method, body. Inside the method body, it is your choice whether you are going to write a single line of code or multiple line of code. Okay. Now I have explained this. These are the functional interfaces that we have created. There are inbuilt functional interfaces which are available from Java 8. I already told you that. Okay, what is the purpose of these interfaces? Each interface has its own set of purpose. So if you talk about consumer, so we discussed about that. So let us just see two interfaces. One is consumer, then predicate, then supplier. These are all my favorite interfaces. Then the next one is function. What is the meaning of consumer? Consumer means it is going to consume data. It is going to take data in. In that case, the method of the consumer, guys, this is an inbuilt interface. It has the method as void accept and it takes TA. What is the meaning of TA? In the previous case, we created our own interface, but actually we have not given any generic type. It can take only specific data type. Maybe int, in primitive data type int, or double, or string. That is what we have created. But what they have done in Java 8 is, when they have created this interface, they are saying, I can accept any data type, not primitive, my dear guys. It can accept any data type. It can be string, it can be integer, float, double, all wrapper classes, or employee, book, whatever class you are creating, you can just pass it as parameter. So this is consumer. What about predict? So consumer, what it will do? It will accept data, but it will not return anything. It will consume. I am a consumer means what? I will consume. I am just taking something and I am consuming water. Right? So that is consumer. Next one is supplier. Any guess? What about supplier? What does supplier do? Any guess? Supplier is to supply data. It has to provide you with data. So it will have a return type. Okay, supplier will have a return type. Very good. So it is going to have a return type and the method for supplier is get. Understood? Supplier always will return something to us. It is not going to take any input, but it will return something to us. Next one is predicate. What is the meaning of predicate? Predicate is used for testing a condition. So the method in predicate is test. It takes a parameter based on the data type that you are passing. If you are passing predicate string, it will take string as parameter. If you are passing predicate integer, it will take integer as parameter. Some question? Very good. So in this case, the return type of predicate will be a Boolean because it is used for testing a condition. No matter what, it is used for testing a condition. The next one is function. What about function? Function the method in function is apply. Function takes an input of one type. Maybe it can take a string and it will return an output of another type. It can return an integer. Or it can return an integer, take an integer as input and return an integer as output. Or it can take a string as input, return a string as output. That way this function can work. Okay. So now here we have seen it. Together with that, we are also having by consumer. What is the meaning of by consumer? In case of by consumer, it will take two parameters. In case of by predicate, it will take two parameters. In case of by function, it will again take two parameters. Okay. Now what we will do is, we will try one small program for consumer. We'll see how to implement consumer, how to implement supplier, predicate and function. Okay. For string. Yes. And then method is used if you want to again modify the code after you have got the result. Okay. After I have got the result, if I want to modify the code, then you can use this and then method. Now, let me create a new class. I'll close this. Right click, new. Class. Let me give the class name as fun demo. We'll have a main method. Okay. Now, in this case, what is that we are going to do? We want to implement consumer. Consumer is an inbuilt interface. So how will you, from which package it is? It is from Java dot, you all know scanner, then you all know array list, linked list, list, set, map, so many things you have learned. They are all from util package. These interfaces are from Java dot util dot function package. See, let me write it out. So here, let me add it. Consumer. See, Java dot util dot function package. First, you need to import it. Now, let me click on this consumer. Let us see what a consumer is. See, they have nicely annotated it with at functional interface. It is having one single method except T. T can be anything. As I told, if I am passing within the angle bracket string, then T will be string. If I am passing employee, T will be employee. If I am passing T as integer, then T will be integer. So let us first start with string. Okay, string con equal to. Now I need to implement the method of the consumer. What should I do? Go to the consumer class. Just copy this parameter as I told you. Just how did we do for greetings? How did we do for calculator? Just copy the parameter, control C. But if you know that, okay, fine, it is going to have one parameter, then okay, fine. Come here, add it. What is this T? It is nothing but string. I don't want to have it as lowercase t. Let me have it as name. And arrow method body. So name dot to uppercase. So this is the implementation of consumer. Again, I am repeating. I am implementing consumer. Right? How to call it in the next line? Con dot. See, the moment I call accept, it is not showing T. It is showing string because you have taken the generic type as string. Generic means they are creating it as a generic method based on the data type you change. Remember, in that case, you cannot work with primitive data types. There are certain functional interfaces which are available exclusively for primitive data types. Int consumer, double consumer, float consumer. Okay, so they are different categories. Here we are seeing the interfaces which can work with objects. In our case, string is also an object. Con dot accept Shri. Now let me run this. You can see the output. Getting it? Okay. Now, no, I don't. Okay, this of course, guys, you know, you can write it in a single line. We will do it for the second one. Now, I don't want to work with string. I want to use an integer. So, how I can give it as integer con 1. is equal to, this is an integer value, right? So I will give it as number. No need of parameter, no need of return type. Actually, technically speaking, I can write it in one single line. See, system dot out dot println. That's all. No need of this also. See how simple it is. Now, in the second case, this is taking integer. So now number. So I can just print number into number. Just printing the number plus number, whatever. Okay, now sorry, the implementation is only done. Con1 dot accept. See, now this time it is taking integer as parameter. Just pass 10. This is an object, guys. This is not a primitive data type. Integer is a wrapper class object. See, here we have got the output. Now the same way, let us try with supplier. Supplier. In case of supplier also, let me pass string as parameter. We will see the method in supplier. Always, whenever you are working with inbuilt classes, first go and check what are the methods available there. Only then you will get an idea how actually these inbuilt classes are working. See, this is a functional interface introduced from 1.8. The method is get. It is having the return type as T. T means what? Again, as usual, it can be any data type, generic. In our case, it is string. So here, supplier 1 is equal to no parameter, but it has to return something. Return grade day. Now, if I want to call it, I need to call it within println statement. So, supplier 1 dot, see, get method, it is returning what? It is returning a string. Now, again, as usual, I can do it in a single line. We will do it for integer value. Supplier integer sub 2 equal to, okay, arrow, sorry, parenthesis, arrow. I don't want to add any return statement, no curly braces, so I can just return 100 directly. See how easy it is. 100. Remember, you have to return only an integer value. You cannot return a string value. Here also, instead of grade day, I can return double quotes 100. That also will work perfectly fine. This is only a string, not an integer. Okay. And in the next line, now I have to get it in an integer variable. I can get integer number 1 is equal to sub 2 dot get. See the return type, it is integer. And the next line, print the number. Number 1, that's all. Now we'll run this and see the output. See? It's printing grade day and 100. Clear? Now next one is predicate. So how do you use predicate? In case of predicate, again let me add string. See, this time I didn't import it, so it's asking me to import it. Keep the cursor, control space, predicate. Now control click will take you to the predicate class. It is taking test as method. It is taking T as parameter. It can be a string or integer or whatever. The return type is a Boolean value. Now predicate. So in this case, how I can give? Pred1 is equal to, it is taking string as parameter, right? One parameter. If you are having doubt, just copy this, come back, add it over here. The data type is string, so I can have it as username, arrow. I need to check for a condition. So what I can check, somehow it has to return a true or false value. If username dot length is less than 5, then return true. Else returns false. Very simple logic, see? Very simple. Actually, these interfaces are used together with Streams API. It is so very useful that when you are working with a list of objects, when you want to work with working with a list of objects, in case suppose I want to get the employee by city or get the list of employees by a particular salary, in those scenarios you will convert your list into a stream. The methods of Streams API take these interfaces as parameter. So in those scenarios, you can provide the implementation of this using Lambda expressions. That is the place where you will be using lambda expression. Here we are just trying to understand how to implement lambda expression. The original real use cases when you are working with Streams API. Only if I know how to implement it, I can use it with Streams API. Okay, now here let me end it with a semicolon. The next line, pred one dot. What is the method? Test. Shri. This is returning a value. So I can call this within println statement again as usual. Okay. Fine. So this is for predicate. The last one is my favorite one, function interface. What is this function interface? This function interface takes an input of one type and returns an output of same type or another type. Now let us start it like this. So let me have the input as also a string, input data type also a string, the output data type also a string. Let us just check what is there in function interface. Now see, T is the input, R is the output. So what it is taking? This is the input data type, this is the output data type. Now let us see how it can be done. It is taking only one single parameter again. Fun1 is equal to one input, which is username, arrow. I need to return. What is the data type of the output? It also should be string. So I can return welcome plus username, or I can convert username dot to uppercase. It's all your choice how you want to write the logic. Only thing is the return type also should be in string. Function is simply, its function is not important. That's why it's giving me an error. Username dot to uppercase. End this with a semicolon. Function is not imported. That's why it's giving me an error. So to import, shift control O. Okay. Now it is imported. Now in the next line, it is returning a value. String result is equal to fun1 dot. The method is apply. Pass the string. Priya. And print the result. Okay. So in this case, we have taken input as string, output as string. Now let us modify the same thing. My input should be a string, my output should be an integer. So what can I return? Input is username. I want to return an integer value. Guys, how this can be written in a single line? I can remove this curly braces, remove this curly braces also, and I cannot use the return statement. It is simply username dot to uppercase. Got it? How simple it is. All the logic, whatever we want, we are writing it in one single line. Now tell me, what can I return? Very good. Length of the username. I can write it as, yeah, technically this has to be return username dot whatever is returning a int value. See, you can just use this one, this method, this method. See, it's giving you an option also, hash code, index of a character, index of a string, Priya, index of, so all whatever is returning an int value, it is giving you an option, a choice. So now let us use length. And it will semicolon. Fine. And the next line, let us call the method. So here the input is a string, the output is an integer. So I can call it as fun2. Let me have it as fun2 dot apply. And let me pass the string as Shristi. And let me run this. So here we have got the output, the length of the string. So this is how you implement the functional interfaces. We have seen only the basic functional interfaces. Other than this, you are having by consumer. In case of by consumer, it will take two parameters. By consumer. It will take two parameters. See, control click. Two inputs, not output, two inputs. Okay. Similarly, you are having by predicate. by function. It means the moment you give by, it means it is taking two input. That is the difference. Okay. So this is how we work with functional interfaces. Always remember, the purpose of functional interfaces is used very much with Lambda, with the streams API, and whatever we are seeing here is with the basic string integer wrapper classes. Technically speaking, it is used with the user defined objects like employee, book, mobile, vehicle, like that. Okay, so you will be having consumer of employee and you will try to print the employee object. You will check, you will have predicate of employee. You will get the use employee's name and check the length of employee name, or check the city of the employee, check whether he belongs to Bangalore. If it is there, then return true, else return false. So you will be providing these kind of conditions. So this functional interfaces, the inbuilt functional interfaces are very, very useful when you are working with Streams API. The functional interfaces can be implemented in any of these ways, but the best way is to use with Lambda expressions. Any questions, guys? I hope it is clear. Yeah. Any more questions you guys want to ask? Yes. Then shall we wind up for the day? Functional interface can take two parameters also. By consumer, by supplier. Functional interface will have only abstract method. It can take any number of parameters. If you notice, by consumer takes two parameters. By function takes two parameters. Getting it? Sai, is it clear? Only criteria is it can have only one single abstract method. The number of parameters can be anything. Yeah, by function will take two parameters. We are talking about functional interfaces. By function is an interface which comes under functional interface category. By function is an inbuilt interface. Clear? Function takes two parameters, right? In this case, one parameter is input, one parameter is output. Let me just show you that part. See here, this is input, this is output. This is what you are seeing. This is input, this is output. But if you are telling that you want by function, in this case, the first two parameters will be input, the last parameter will be the output. So here, how will you call it? It will take two parameters, username, comma, city, like this, within which you will have to write the logic, and finally you need to return an integer value, which can be anything. If you are giving this as a string, then you have to return a string value. Two inputs, one output by function. Got it? See. Here see. Two input, one output. See this one. These two are the inputs. This is the output. The data type can be any based on what you want. Okay? Fine. So, thank you so much, guys. We will meet next week for the next one interesting session on interfaces again.